While Mercedes won't be raising any championship trophies this season, the team's efforts and keep pushing attitude should be commended, as the Brackley-based team is still on the hunt for a P2 finish in the Constructors' Championship even without a race win all season long. But as we now head to Singapore this weekend, both their drivers and engineers believe that their first win may finally arrive. So, why does the team think Singapore will be where they break the curse? Is it a certainty or more wishful thinking? And now that George Russell and Lewis Hamilton have spent almost a year together, how are the two getting along? Well, let's talk about it then. But before we do, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on our latest uploads. After a year of bouncing around both figuratively and literally, the team thinks that they've finally come to grips with what their W13 likes to show its best colors. As we've seen all season long, Mercedes has thrived on circuits that require more downforce, such as Hungary and Spain, where the team was flying through the track. But with that comes a caveat, as Singapore is a street circuit. And as much as Singapore is a high downforce circuit, its pavements are rough, which is shown in the past as something that hampers the team's performance. A case in point would be at Monaco, where both their drivers just couldn't get a hold of their W13. Both team boss Toto Wolff and George Russell would say that on paper, the team should thrive in Singapore, with George saying, "On paper, Singapore should suit our car. But when we look back at the street circuits of Monaco and Azerbaijan, our car doesn't fare too well over the bumps. So we're not too sure how it'll fall out. But we need to keep on pushing, keep on improving the car. I'm pleased that we've got a clear direction we need to go in now." And Toto would say, "We still believe that Singapore will be one of our better circuits, but at the same time, we want to be careful with predictions." And as for Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion is faced with the possibility of having the 2022 season as the first season he doesn't get to step into the top step of the podium at least once. But the team's technical director, Mike Elliott, would go a step further from what both George and Toto had said, saying he believes that a race win is in the cards for the team at Singapore. "I think when you look back at the learning we've gathered over the season, we expect Singapore to be a bit more like what we've seen in Budapest and Zandvoort," said Elliott. "It's a bumpy circuit, which is going to provide its challenges. But in terms of the nature of the corners, we think it will be better for our car. So hopefully we'll have a good result there. As always, we'll do all the pre-simulation work we need to do, we'll maximize our learning in the practice sessions, and hopefully we can turn that into a good result on the weekend." But, as mentioned earlier, all these efforts are to dampen the disappointment this year has been for a team that has been used to dominating over their competitors. And when Elliott was asked on what the team has learned so far this season, Elliott would reply with, "We've had some good races, and we've had some not so good races, but I think what's really encouraging is the understanding that's coming from the simulation work that we're doing, and the understanding that's coming from the wind tunnel. It's allowing us to work out why our performance is going up and down, what we need to get back into the fight right at the front, and what we need to do over the winter. I think they're the key things." And when asked about what the team is eyeing by next season's end and next season, Elliott would say, "We want to try and fight Ferrari for that P2 position. We want to try and win a race this season, or multiple races ideally. And most of all, we want to get ourselves back on track so we're fighting properly for a championship next year." That's not any disrespect to our opposition. We've got fantastic opposition, but that's what we really need to do. We want to be back there and we want to be challenging for championships, because that's what we're about. Many fans and pundits would agree that the team's side podless design is the main culprit for the team's struggles this season. And while anecdotally that may be the case, as we've seen both Red Bull and Ferrari thrive with their wider side pods, George Russell would say that their current design has as many positives as there are negatives to it, and that throwing away this concept design for next season isn't 100% a certainty. In his words, "I think nothing's off the table," he told the Formula One website. "For sure, we've got a pretty unique design with the side pods. It's not off the cards that we will continue with that design, but it is equally not off the cards that we will completely change philosophy. But ultimately, whether we have the wide side pods or the narrow side pods, that isn't the performance differentiator. There is more to it. I think we understand exactly why at circuits like Zandvoort and Budapest why we were competitive, and we understand why at circuits like this, Monza, and Spa we were uncompetitive. That doesn't mean that we can solve the issues overnight, but we've got to keep on developing this car, and next year will sort of be an evolution of this, and I think now we do have a totally clear direction of how to develop the car." And now that Lewis and George have been through 3/4 of a season together, Lewis would reveal that their dynamic is polar opposites compared to his teammates in the past. As we all can remember, Lewis has always gotten feisty with his previous teammates since his time at McLaren as a rookie, and who can forget his heated battles with Nico Rosberg at Mercedes? Lewis would reveal that being in the sport for so long has taught him many things, and that he is in a different place compared to before. In his words, "It's pretty easy, to be honest. He's been a part of our team for a while, really. When I was racing with Nico Rosberg, when I was racing with Valtteri Bottas, he was there. He was already present. So when he joined the team, it was just a natural progression. He's a very well, level-headed bloke and very focused, very determined. He's just a great teammate, so zero problems. And also, I'm in a different place in my life. I generally want to see people succeed." Now, many would say the reason Lewis has been level-headed with George is that there isn't a title to fight over. Unlike his time at McLaren in 2011 against Jenson Button and in 2016 against Rosberg, Lewis would be asked about this, to which he would reply with, "Yeah, when you're younger, you're chasing. When you're chasing something so much, the single-minded focus. But generally in my life, I want to see people shine and people do well. I want George to be at his best, and I hope during the journey together he will learn. Hopefully, there will be something positive he will have from us running together. But I still work every day to make sure that I'm ahead. I'm also aware that there's days you won't win, and there's days you won't be ahead. And it's not that it doesn't bother me, but I'm able to accept the reality in which sometimes you're faced with." As mentioned earlier, whether you're a Mercedes hater or lover, the fact that they're in the battle for P2 is quite impressive, considering they're up against Ferrari, who undoubtedly have a better package than what Mercedes has had to deal with this season. And as for the Singapore Grand Prix, I know I'm not the only one that wants to see a three-way battle for the race win this weekend. What do you think? Will Mercedes have enough to beat Ferrari for P2? Should they still stick with their side podless design next year? Let us know in the comments section below. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't.